Good afternoon, and we are back again to our topic. And before we proceed to our presentation, we will try to make some recap and recall from our last topic. Again, our title is The Stop, Ready, and Go of the Language Programs. And we would like to go through again with the different training objectives that we have set last time. Number one, we'll be able to reflect on the importance of evaluation, which we tried to understand last time that um, Filipinos are sometimes are not non-evaluators or poor evaluators. And we also tried to realize last time that um, evaluations are very important. And we tried to metaphorize it with traffic lights, which means that traffic lights regulates the flow of the vehicles to ensure safety and efficiency, just as evaluation guides the progress of our work or performance to maintain quality and effectiveness, both providing crucial checkpoints and direction to achieve our optimal outcomes. So it's very important that we undergo several evaluations. Number two, we'll try to differentiate evaluation models. Last time we talked about different types of evaluation models, such as like goal-oriented, goal-free. We also talk about impact and process-based type of evaluation models. And number three, we'll try to identify possible models to be used in our language programs. It is because the end goal of our course is that we will try to present our respective language programs. And for us to decide well and craft our program well, we need also to craft our um, evaluation uh, strategies and ways in order for us to improve our respective language programs. And last time we talked about CIPP. And finally, outline language program evaluation because again, the end goal of our session is that we will be able to present our language program evaluation wherein we can have a picture, a bigger picture of how the program will be developed and at the same time, how are we going to evaluate our respective programs. Okay, going to the training program, we are still in the evaluation frameworks and tools, which I will continue three of the models that we could use. But again, there are a lot of evaluation models, but the four of them will be discussed and shared on our session today. And I will continue the three of them. And then afterwards, Sir Jamar will continue presenting to us the different case studies in language program evaluation. In other words, the evaluation models that I have presented, Sir Jamar will give several sample studies on how these particular models was used. And then right after Sir Jamar will have a bit of a short break. And then right after, Sir Razzle will continue. We'll talk about program effectiveness and the outcome analysis, meaning to say, he will try to share with us um, different findings coming from different studies on how to improve our outcome at the same time our programs. So on that note, we can be able to present our language program evaluation plan. And I guess that will be the flow and our direction for today. So let's begin. Now let's continue with goal-free evaluation model by Scriven. The goal-free evaluation model was developed by Michael Scriven in 1970s. Scriven is a prominent figure in the field of evaluation and has made significant contributions to the evaluation theory and practice. The purpose of the goal-free evaluation model is to assess actual effects and outcomes of a program without being influenced or limited by its stated goals. This approach aims to identify all the outcomes including unintended ones, to provide comprehensive evaluation of a program's impact. Because Michael Scriven believes that evaluation refers to the process of determining the merit, the worth, and the significance of something or our program, perhaps. What are the keywords here? The keywords here are actual effects and not influence of the goal. Unlike with goal oriented, we wanted to start and end with the goal, but in Scriven, he believes that sometimes to actually see and comprehensively analyze a certain program, we need to really look at its outcome, regardless the intended and the unintended outcomes, because in the end of the day, they are still outcomes. Now, we're looking at a different approach called the goal-free evaluation model. It's like putting on a blindfold before judging a cooking contest, for example. You're just like tasting the food without knowing what the chef was trying to make. Okay, let's break it down and see how it compares to our CIPP model. The evaluator here on the goal-free evaluation doesn't know the program's goals or objectives, or do not necessarily have the idea of what the goal of the program. They look at what is actually happening. What is actually happening now, what was supposed to happen. It's all about observing the real outcomes, the effects, the impacts, both intended and unintended. The big question here is what does the program actually do, not what was it meant to do. Comparing to CIPP is like following a recipe step by step, checking at each stage. The goal free is tasting the final dish without seeing the recipe. CIPP starts with goals, which is the context, then plans, which is the input, actions, which is the process, and the results, which is the product. But GFE jumps straight to the results without considering the initial goals or the process. CIPP asks, are we doing what we said we'd do? And is it working? The GFE asks, what's actually happening here, regardless of what was planned? The key differences are CIPP is comprehensive and structured, following the program from start to finish outcomes. CIPP might miss unintended outcomes because it focused on the stated goals, while the GFE might catch the unexpected results because it's not limited to the predetermined objectives. CIPP models helps in ongoing program management and improvement, while GFE is great for unbiased look to an overall impact. When to use CIPP, you need a thorough step-by-step evaluation of your program. Use GFE if you want to have a fresh perspective or to catch outcomes you might not have anticipated. Both models have their place. CIPP gives you a roadmap of the whole journey, considering that our metaphor is traffic lights, while GFE is like having a fresh pair of eyes look at where you ended up. Asa na ba ta? Now, if you're traveling, we're not looking at to the mga tutag Boracay, but we're looking at asa na ta padulong karon, asa ta karon, no? Depending on what you need, you might even use both. For example, CIP for going assessment and GFE for a final unbiased assessment. Now let's go on to the benefits and the challenges. Benefits: reduce bias. It's very highlighted. Identifies unintended outcomes because regardless, we wanted to, you know, in reality, there are a lot of unintended outcomes. Focuses on the actual effect, reveals the overlooked program impacts, encourages creative assessment. On the challenge side, resource intensive and time consuming, dif- difficult in goal oriented organizations. Third, requires highly skilled evaluators to really identify unintended outcomes. Number four, may not align with stakeholders' desire because the stakeholders are very much goal oriented. Number five, it's challenging to determine the evaluation criteria since you don't have the goal. So it's difficult for us to evaluate it since we don't have much we don't have the criteria. Okay, in terms of the process, this is the fast way to understand it. Observed, collect the data, analyze it, and report it. So observe what's going on, and intended and unintended. Write down what we have noticed. Collect the data and analyze, and then we report it. Okay. How do you apply this in real life scenario? How can you apply the Scriven's goal-free model in our respective work or even in our day-to-day endeavors? Can you give me such answer? Maybe Sir Russell could give us could facilitate us in sharing our thoughts and ideas. All right, for this particular model. All right. Thank you so much for sharing your thoughts and your ideas. Now we're moving to the third one, the continence evaluation model by Stake. The continence evaluation model was developed by Robert E. Stake in 1967. Stake is a prominent American educational psychologist and evaluation theorist known for his significant contributions to the qualitative research and program evaluation. The purpose of the continence evaluation model is to provide a comprehensive framework for describing and judging educational programs. It aims to capture the full continence or face of the program by considering both descriptive and judgmental data across various program aspects. All right, for us to really understand Stake's point of view, let's have these diagram. Let's dive into the continence evaluation model. It might look a bit complicated at first, but I promise it's a pretty cool once we break it down. The big picture here is that we got three main stages: the antecedents, which is the before, transaction, which is the during, the outcomes, which is the after. So antecedents, that's the first main stage. Second is the transaction, that is the during, and the outcome, which is the after. It's like the story of our program, the intended versus the observed. So this is the intended one, and this is the observed one. For each stage, we're looking at two things: what we intended to happen and what we actually observed. So we're trying to fuse together the intended and then what is observed, the goal and what is the outcome. So uh, see those pink arrows, they're showing the congruency. It's asking if how congruent, no, or planned match what we actually happen. That is crucial. It helps us to see if we're on track or if there are a bit of surprises along the way. But the congruency is what we're looking at in this model. How congruent our observed antecedent and how congruent our observed transaction to the intended transaction, our observed outcome to the intended outcome. So how it works? We start by looking at our intentions for each stages. Then we observe what actually happens. We compare the intended with the observed, and that's the congruency part is going to be validated. So technically, I mean, in a simple manner, continence evaluation model is to trying to see the congruency of our plan to the actual result. We try to compare it. We also look at how each stage influence the next one. Okay, compared to the other models, unlike the goal-free model, this one is very much cares about our initial intentions. It's more detailed than the CIPP model in comparing the plans to reality at each stage. It adds the element of looking at how each stage influenced the next one, which is a bit unique. Why it is useful, it helps us see where our plan and realities diverge. We can spot unintended consequences. It shows us how early stages of our program impact the later ones. This model also is like having a really detailed map of our journey where we can see not just where we ended up, but know how each step of the way compared to our original plan. It's great for programs where we want to understand both the what and the why of our results. Okay, that is our continence evaluation model by state. Okay, so again, let's have some stuff over. How do we apply this in real life scenario? All right, can you type here in our chat box? How can we apply the continence evaluation model in a real life scenario? All right. Now, thank you so much for sharing. We're moving to the final one, the discrepancy evaluation model. It was developed by Provus. The discrepancy evaluation model was developed by Malcolm Provus in the late 1960s. Provus was an American educator in evaluation theories who worked extensively in the program evaluation and school improvement. The purpose of this discrepancy evaluation model is to identify the gaps and the discrepancies between program standards and actual program's performance. It aims to provide ongoing feedback for the program improvement and how to continuously improve it. So technically, the keywords are what is and what should be. It's a bit the same with the continence evaluation model, but here we're trying to look at the discrepancy, like what happened, what's the difference. This is the standard, this is the performance, and what happened in the middle, what is the discrepancy. Okay, so there are three basic tenets on this model: the standard, the performance, and the discrepancy. Let's define each. Standards, this means the list of the characteristics or the qualities of a program or an object that we wanted to possess. Number two, the performance, the actual characteristics or the qualities. All right. And then number three, the discrepancies, the difference after conducting the comparison of the standards and the performance. So the formula is standard minus performance equals discrepancy. All right. So babala na to dayon nga uy murag diri ang problema sa atong programa. That's why we perform this way. Okay, but let's try to make it let's try to talk about it. It's like a report card for our program, but with a bit twist, no? So again, there are three key parts. The standard, which is our wish list, what we want our program to be or to do. It's like setting the bar for the success. We list all the characteristics and the qualities. Then the performance, this is the reality check time. After we ran our program, what did we actually achieve? What characteristics or qualities does our program actually have now that we have completed it? And here's what it gets interesting. We're looking at the gap between our standard and our actual performance, like comparing our wish list to our Santa actually brought or to our actual gift. Wish list to gift, something like that. Um, for example, in our Pacocoa, because the private schools or universities are undergoing accreditation under Pacocoa, um, we try also to have the standards that we need to achieve, and then we try to give our scores to our performances to different areas and criterion. For example, in the community extension criterion, there are some indicators there, and then we try to put our score, and then mao ni ang standard. So if the standard is 5, for example, pila ra amo ang makaya, no, or pila ra among na-achieve. And then we're trying to figure out in the end what are the discrepancy of the performance and the standards that it was intended for a certain level. Now, here's what we get interested, no? The formula here is S minus P equals the discrepancy. In other words, standard minus performance equals discrepancy. Why is this model useful? It's clear cut. We know exactly we're aiming for. We can measure how close we get. Now, for example, the standard is 5 and our score is 3. So therefore, we only have 2 points, and we try to realize and figure out kung saan 2 points nga wala na naka-reach ana or wala nato na siya na-reach to have as the 5 points. It's highlight the gaps. So it's more on the gap. We can easily see where we're falling short of our goals. It's actionable. Once we know the discrepancy, we can make the targeted improvements. Example, anong dili man nato ma-achieve ang 5? Because ang 5 kailangan makapublish ta sa high impact journals. Pero ang atong napublishan kay dili pa high impact, so naa pa ta sa 3 for example. So kabalo ta nga mao ni ato ang buhaton para ma-achieve nato to ang 5. So we're looking at the discrepancy. It's flexible. This can work for any kind of the program or project. Compared to other models we've seen, it's simpler than the continence model. It's focused on the end result rather than the whole process. Unlike the goal-free model, it's very much care about the actual effect. It's like comprehensive than CIP. It's less comprehensive than CIPP, but more focused on pinpointing the exact areas of improvement. This model is a great when you want a straightforward to see if you're meeting your goals. It's like having a clear target and seeing how close your arrows are landing. Bigger the discrepancy, the more work we know we need to do. Remember, in evaluation, sometimes knowing where you're falling short is just valuable as knowing where you succeeded. All right. I guess that's the discrepancy evaluation model. Now, again, how do we apply that in our real life scenario? All right. Thank you so much. Now, let's have a review. These are the four models that we talk about. Number one, the CIPP model, the goal-free evaluation model, the continence evaluation model, and the discrepancy evaluation model. Let's have put them in a nutshell. For goal-oriented, it focuses on achieving predetermined objectives. The CIPP has context, input, process, product, orientation towards decision-making, evaluates program at different stages, and it's developed by Stufflebeam. The goal-free evaluation model is not based on program objectives. It focuses on the actual outcomes. It considers unintended effects. It is consumer-oriented approach, and it's developed by Michael Scriven. For countenance evaluation model, it focuses on educational programs. It has three phases: antecedent, transaction, outcome. Compares to intended versus observed outcome. It provides in-depth program overview, and it's developed by Robert Stay. For discrepancy evaluation model, it identifies gaps between the standards and the performance. It has four stages: design, installation, the process, and the product. It focuses on the program improvement. It developed by Malcolm Provus. All right, next step over. Can the implementers of the program be evaluators of the same program? All right. There are several answers. One, if we're trying to look at on the unbiased side, we need external evaluators. But if you wanted to improve our processes and to have a monitoring of our program, then the evaluators can be, I mean, the implementers can also be the evaluators of the same program so that they will be aware, they will be self-assessing their program as to how this can be improved. Same with ourselves, like in the Johari's window, there are things that we can see that others can't see, but there are also things that others can see but we can't see. But there are also things that both of us can see and both of us can't see. So evaluation should be at 360 degrees. It comes from external evaluators. It also comes from ourselves because in the end of the day, the improvement is very important. It's crucial, the growth. So it will also help us to have a growth mindset, according to Carl Dweck, for us to become better individuals so that we'll not be fixed mindset. We need to continuously evaluate ourselves. Other students are afraid of evaluation, but I always tell them that evaluations are a friend. It gives us an idea of where we are right now. It gives us an idea of what are the things to be improved, and also give us an idea of what are the small successes that we have so far. All right, I guess we're able to finish the four models for this particular session. This time, let's have a sample CIPP model study that we have presented. Um, we conducted a CIPP model to our program named Look Reading Engagement and Development Service, or also known as the Look Reads, using the CIPP model. Look is a barangay, it's a place wherein we help the kids who cannot actually read because of number one, because of the pandemic, number two, because of learning crisis. And on that note, we make a program and we try to evaluate the program in its year one. And currently, we are now in our year three. But I like to share with you this program. It is not yet perfect, but we try to use CIPP model to figure out how can we improve our program and help more our learners, especially for learners who are struggling readers. Um, we have presented this in our with our co-program coordinators in the university. So here is the video.